When my grandfather passed away, he left me a piece of land that carried more history than gold ever could. It wasn't much to the average eye, just a long stretch of green earth that sloped gently toward a lake. But to my family, that land was a legacy. My grandfather used to say, "The land remembers who cares for it." Those words stuck with me. He refused every offer from real estate developers, every handshake from corporate buyers, every scheme that promised quick money. He always said no because the land wasn't for sale. It was home. After his passing, I inherited the property along with his old truck and a rusted lockbox filled with deeds, photos, and letters from the 1960s. Life got busy, so I didn't visit the land often, but I always paid the taxes, cleared the brush once a year, and made sure the fences were intact. It sat just outside of town, a quiet, untouched spot surrounded by growing suburbs. Over the years, the city crept closer. New neighborhoods, shopping centers, even a golf course popped up nearby. I never thought much of it until the day a letter arrived that changed everything. The envelope was thick, official-looking, with the Westbrook Lakes Homeowners Association stamped across the top. I didn't live anywhere near a homeowners association, so I assumed it was junk mail. But when I opened it, I froze. It was an invoice, an actual bill, for annual community maintenance fees. According to them, my land was now part of the Westbrook Lakes HOA district, and I owed $3,200 for a road upkeep, landscaping, and security. I laughed out loud. The land didn't even have a road, let alone landscaping. I tossed the letter aside, assuming it was a mistake. 2 months later, I went down to check on the property. I'll never forget what I saw. The trees were gone. The old fence had been bulldozed. Heavy machinery was parked on the soil, and construction workers were moving steel beams. Foundations had been poured, and framing had begun for what looked like large modern houses. 12 of them spaced evenly across my land. I drove up to the nearest worker and yelled, asking who gave permission to build here. He shrugged and pointed to a woman in a pink blazer who was barking orders into her phone. I approached her, trying to keep calm. She looked like the kind of person who'd never worked a day of hard labor. Perfect hair, diamond jewelry, clipboard in hand. Can I help you?" she asked, impatiently. "You're building on private property," I said. "This land belongs to me." She gave me a practiced smile. "Oh, you must be mistaken. This area is part of Westbrook Lakes Phase 3 development. We've had the permits for months." I told her I had the deed, that my grandfather had owned this land for decades, that it was not for sale and never had been. Her smile didn't falter, but her tone changed. "If there's been a clerical error, you can take it up with the HOA legal department. But construction isn't stopping. We've already invested too much money here." That moment told me everything I needed to know. They didn't make a mistake. They just didn't care. When I left the property, I called the county assessor's office. I spent hours confirming the parcel ID, pulling up the property maps, and reviewing ownership records. My name was still listed as the rightful owner. There had been no transfer, no sale, no rezoning. The HOA had simply decided to expand onto land they didn't own, assuming I was too small to fight them. I hired a lawyer the next day. He was a sharp old man who'd handled property disputes before. After reviewing the documents, he leaned back in his chair, folded his hands, and said something that surprised me. "Don't stop them." I frowned. "You mean?" "I'll let them build," he said. "The more they do, the more they owe. Every dollar they spend becomes evidence of their arrogance. When we take them to court, you'll own everything they've built." I didn't know whether to believe him, but I trusted his confidence. So that's what I did. I stayed quiet. I watched. I waited. Over the next year, I documented everything, every truck, every crew, every delivery. I even set up a trail camera hidden in the trees to capture time-lapse footage of the entire construction. By the time the villas were finished, they looked like something straight out of a luxury magazine. Two-story homes with stone exteriors, balconies overlooking the lake, marble countertops, and private docks. They even built a security gate with a keypad at the main entrance. My grandfather's land had been turned into a millionaire's playground, and they had no idea it wasn't theirs. When construction wrapped up, the HOA threw an opening celebration. They put up banners that read a welcome to Westbrook Lakes Phase 3 and had champagne on tables overlooking the lake. The same woman in the pink blazer was there, shaking hands with potential buyers. That was the day I decided it was time. My lawyer filed our case in county court. The filing alone caused a stir. The TA tried brushing it off as a frivolous claim, but once the summons was issued, they had to appear. The first hearing was tense. Their attorney, a tall man in a gray suit, walked in like he owned the room. He started his opening statement by calling me an uninformed individual misunderstanding zoning boundaries. But when my lawyer stood and presented the original deed, signed in 1962, the atmosphere shifted. The judge leaned forward, studying the documents. The HOA lawyer stammered, trying to explain how the area had been redesignated years ago. My lawyer calmly asked for the county's zoning maps, which showed the boundaries in black and white. My property was clearly outside HOA jurisdiction. The judge turned to their lawyer and asked, "Did your client verify ownership before construction?" He couldn't answer. By the end of the hearing, the judge ordered an immediate halt to any HOA activity on my land until ownership was settled. But the case didn't drag on for long. Within weeks, it became painfully clear that the HOA had built 12 luxury villas entirely on private property without consent or purchase. The judge's final ruling was short but devastating for them. Every structure, improvement, and asset built on my land was legally mine. When the verdict was read, the HOA president went pale. The pink blazer woman sat stone-faced, clutching her clipboard like it could save her. Their attorney packed up his briefcase and walked out without a word. I won. The next few weeks were surreal. The county transferred all construction rights, deeds, and assets to my name. The police supervised as the AHOA removed their signs and vacated the site. The residence-only gate was torn down, and the villas stood empty, mine to do with as I pleased. The media caught wind of the case too. Local news called it the Westbrook Lakes blunder. Neighbors whispered about it for months. Apparently, the HOA board members started turning on each other. Lawsuits flew, resignations followed, and eventually the entire association dissolved under financial strain. Their funds had been drained by construction loans and legal fees. I took my time deciding what to do with the villas. Part of me wanted to tear them all down, return the land to how it used to be, open fields, trees, and quiet lake air. But my lawyer reminded me that I'd earned them fair and square. So I kept them. I sold 2 to cover legal costs and taxes, rented out 5 as vacation homes, and kept 1 for myself. Living in one of those villas, I often think about my grandfather. I walk the land just like he used to, except now the path winds past luxury homes instead of wild grass. Sometimes I catch myself smiling, imagining what he'd say about it all. I told you, he'd probably say. The land remembers. The pink blazer woman showed up once more, a few months after the ruling. I saw her standing at the edge of the property, staring at the lake. She looked older, worn down. When our eyes met, she gave me a tight smile and said, "You really got us good?" I didn't reply. I didn't need to. I just nodded, turned around, and walked back up to my villa. Later that year, I learned she'd filed for bankruptcy. The HOA board was gone, their name removed from every county record. What was once a Westbrook Lakes Phase 3B was now listed simply as a private property. As time passed, I found peace in that irony. They built their dream neighborhood on the wrong foundation. Greed, arrogance, entitlement, and it crumbled because of it. They thought paperwork and politics could override ownership, but they underestimated the quiet power of patience and truth. Every evening, when the sun sets over the water, the villas glow gold under the fading light. The reflection ripples across the lake like a reminder of everything that happened. It's strange, what was once an invasion became an inheritance. The land that they tried to take ended up giving me more than I ever expected. Sometimes I invite friends over, and when they ask how I managed to own 12 luxury villas, I tell them the short version. The HOA built them for me. But deep down, I know it's more than that. It's a story about standing your ground, about patience being stronger than revenge. It's about a man who refused to let arrogance rewrite history. My grandfather's land stayed where it belonged, and in the end, the world learned what he always knew. The land remembers its owner, even when people forget. The old lockbox he left me sits on my desk in the main villa. Inside, the original deed still lies next to a faded photograph of him standing on that same soil, holding his hat against the wind. I keep it there to remind myself that no matter how much time passes, truth doesn't fade. It just waits for the right moment to speak. And when it does, it's louder than any bulldozer, sharper than any lawyer, and far more permanent than any house built on stolen ground.